Talking about cultural relativism again?
No, I'm talking about reason.
Let's talk about what
No,
Aristotle...
I'm not talking about cultural relativism, so please hear me right. You said reason is the basis of morality. Fine. It's still relative, depending upon whose reason you're buying into. I don't care if it's Hitler's reason, white South Africans' reason, or the U.S. Supreme Court's reason at the time of the Dred Scott decision. Reason is relative. And to try and act like, oh no, my reason is better than your reason, real simple. If this man is a hunk of protoplasm evolved to a higher level biologically, his life is ultimately meaningless. Now, he can go and create whatever meaning he wants. He can define the meaning of his life as to make as much money as he can. He can define the meaning of his life as to have a family. He can do whatever he wants. But what he's got to realize is, it's not objective, it's not real, it's just something he created in this handsome head of his. That's all it is. Which means, if he creates his own value and meaning today, but tomorrow he chooses the opposite. No difference, because all of reality when it comes to meaning, value, and ethics is a perspective in this handsome head. And if that perspective changes tomorrow, he's not wrong, he's not right. It's just a perspective. Which means if today, if this worldview is correct, today if I say I want to respect him, great. Tomorrow if I say I want to have a racist attitude towards him, great. Nothing's objectively right, nothing's objectively wrong. It just is. And if I want to respect him, that's my perspective. And if I want to hate his guts, that's my perspective. It's all relative. It's all meaningless. But if he's been created by a God for a purpose, and if God gave him innate value, then if I have a racist attitude towards him or hate him, that is absolutely evil. It's demeaning, it's degrading, it's wrong. Because I live in a democracy, I will abide by a law that says gay people can get married. I will hold to a law that says people can commit adultery. I will hold to a law that says people can fornicate. So I'm not going to try and imprison a fornicator or an adulterer or a homosexual practice. Instead, I respect people's right to choose to exercise their sexuality as they choose. We live in a democracy. I'm very grateful for that, and I support that. But I can promise you, when I talk to an adulterer, a fornicator, or a person who practices homosexual sex, I will plead with them to ask themselves, has God created sexuality for a purpose? And if so, what is that purpose? According to Jesus Christ and the Bible, God did not create sex to be enjoyed by fornicating, by committing adultery, or by having homosexual sex.
Rhetoric is the exact same rhetoric that is used to tell gays and lesbians, oh, you need to convert. That is the exact same rhetoric that is used in conversion therapy, which kills hundreds of kids and teens every year. Kids hang themselves because people like you want to use the rhetoric to turn them and to change them when there's nothing wrong with them. Religion shouldn't have to define someone's feelings about another person.
And if there is no God, there's nothing wrong with fornicating. There's nothing wrong with adultery. There's nothing wrong with date rape. There's nothing wrong with having sex with a golden retriever. It's all relative if there is no God. But if there is a God, then it's possible there's a purpose for our sexuality. It's that simple. Yes, ma'am.
Tell me that
You interrupted her. Let her speak, will you please?
So you don't believe in homosexuality, but bestiality is okay?
No, what I said is, if there is no God, morality is relative, which means if morality is relative, there's nothing wrong with me fornicating, committing adultery, there's nothing wrong with me having homosexual sex, there's nothing wrong with me having sex with as many people as I want to, and there's also nothing wrong with me having sex with my golden retriever, because morality is relative.
Well, no,
but if there is a God, who created our sexuality for a purpose, then I better find out what that purpose is, and I better seek to live out that purpose. It's that simple, guys. It's not that hard.
So then do you support conversion therapy?
I deal with every adulterer, every fornicator, every homosexual person in my church. I deal with them all the same way. In fact, right now I'm dealing with a bunch of guys into pornography, all right? I deal with all of them the same way. I tell them that God created them, that God loves them, that they've got some mixed up desires the same way I do. Believe me, if any of you guys think that I, with my heterosexual sex drive, just desire to have sex with one woman, guys, there we go, that's right, okay? But just because I was born with that drive to have sex with as many good-looking women as I can does not make it right. Instead, I got to ask myself the hard question, what is the purpose for which God gave me my sexuality? To have sex with as many good-looking women as I can? No, according to Christ. To make a lifelong commitment to one woman, and then within the context of that lifelong commitment to enjoy sex as a beautiful gift from God. You know, God could have had procreation happen at the end of a Q-tip, when a man and a woman mixed their earwax. Little babies could have been born from that. He didn't. He chose to create us male and female. He chose to give us a central nervous system that gives us pleasure. That is a gift from God. That was not invented by Hugh Hefner or by anybody else. I love many men, but just because I love a man doesn't mean I have to have sex with him. I love many women. Just because I love many women doesn't mean I have to have sex with him. Watch out for a culture that says, if you love somebody, you got to have sex with them. That's a pretty perverted, twisted culture.
If I do end up loving
there's
a woman
far
and
more
having
to
sex
love
with a woman.
than there is having sex. Animals have sex with each other and don't love each other the way God created us to love each other. To love, according to Christ, means to work for the well-being, to work for the success of the other person. That's love. So, what goes off as love at Texas State is often not love, it's being in heat.
Well, I can assure you I'm not in
I can assure you that on every major American university campus, often what is passed off as love is simply a biological drive called I want to have sex.
I can personally say that I care for the well-being of my partner and furthering it, and I do definitely consider having a lifelong commitment with her.
Good.
So I wouldn't say why it should be considered a sin and why I should be punished from a higher being because of someone who I love.
It's not going to happen.
Well, the point of Christ is not that you stop loving people. The point of Christ is He has given you this gift of sex to be enjoyed between you and someone of the opposite sex till death parts you. You can enjoy sex. Going through orgasm is pleasurable, all right? So we all know that. But the question is, why did God give us the gift of human sexuality? What's the purpose? Remember, guys, that's the issue. Purpose.
But why does it have to be an opposite sex? That's the question.
Because God created it that way, has revealed that way through Jesus Christ. The evidence is Christ is reliable. The evidence is Christ really loves you. He gave His life for you. You know, if someone gives your life for you, if someone gives their life for you, the evidence is they really love you.
Not all the time.
Oh yeah, if someone gives their life for you, they love you. Yes, ma'am.
So we've been talking a lot about morality and what that means, and here's the thing. I don't think that it's right for anyone to try and say that morality can't come from God, but I don't think it's right to say that morality can't come from any other gods or anyone else believes in. And I think there's common ground. I think that there's common ground on what can be considered moral and what we can all consider. Because here's the thing. I don't think it's right to try and tell people that their religion is wrong. I don't think that's correct. I think that there's a lot of Christians in the crowd that both agree with you and disagree with you, but I think that there's common ground that can be found in most people here, and that's what morality can be described as, which is if it does immediate harm to another person, if it takes away the autonomy of another person, along those general lines, with exceptions. I mean, I guess, like with more things that can be added on. I feel like there are logical fallacies in the way that you're describing what is and isn't wrong, per se. In the sense of, you talked about how it was okay for God to strike down people who made fun of one of His disciples, and yet it seems like there's something that isn't congruent with the fact that God does not strike down people that commit evil, as you said, hurting a child, letting people freeze to death in the snow, things like that. I feel like there's common ground that we can discuss on that. Not to say that you're wrong, but the ways in which you're approaching them don't really seem to add up. that make
Thanks
sense?
for your input. I respect your right to interpret or misinterpret me however you want.
As a person, if someone said, you got a goofy looking haircut, or ooh, you're bald, I wouldn't go dead if I had the power. But in the same way, if someone does horribly atrocious evil, like the I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it, I have a list. Nuremberg
trials,
yes,
right?
those, or
Yep.
who hurts children, or who does all these horribly evil, heinous things, I feel like there's something that needs to be logically picked out there, because it doesn't seem to make sense.
Okay, that's cool. So, what you're saying, what I hear you saying is, Cliff, when you and I agree on morals, we can work towards a common end, and when you and I disagree, we'll have to part company. I agree. I respect your right to disagree with me. I respect your right to agree with me. And all I'm doing is challenging you to ask the hard questions. Why do I have value? Why do people have value? Secondly, is there a purpose to life, or is life meaningless? Thirdly, what's the basis of the ethics that you hold to? You got to make ethical decisions every day. To lie, to tell the truth, to steal, to respect the property of another person, to date rape, or to respect a woman or a man. You got to make those decisions every day the same way I do. Why do you make the ethical decisions you do? What's the basis of them? And fourthly, you're going to have to sit at Grandma and Grandpa's funeral probably, and you're going to have to answer the question. You have no choice. Is this the end of Grandma and Grandpa, or is there life after death? Now, guess what, guys? If you believe there is no God, there is no basis for the value of human life other than a prejudice. There is no basis of a purpose for life, because you and I are cosmic accidents. There is no basis for an objective right and wrong. Right and wrong are relative, just a taste. And by gollies, guys, don't tell me about Bob playing golf in heaven if there is no God. Because not only is there no heaven, there's no golf in heaven when you sit at somebody's funeral, guys. Instead, we're all going to the fertilizer pit. So let's be honest. And let's stop hiding behind, oh, Bob's up in heaven playing golf. Friend, if there is no God, there's no heaven, there's no golf in heaven, and there's no life after death. But if there is a God, then it means that is not a hunk of primordial slime, that is not a hunk of primordial slime, and that is not a hunk of primordial slime, and Matthew Shepard is not a hunk of primordial slime. We all have intrinsic value because God created us in his image. Secondly, if there is a God, it means life is not a crapshoot. There's a purpose to life. And according to Christ, the purpose of life is to love God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love your neighbors yourself. And thirdly, if there is a God, it means there might not be many, but there are at least a few moral absolutes. And by gollies, every one of my atheist friends understands that. Every one of my atheist friends is a very good person who understands date rape is wrong and the abuse of an innocent child is really wrong. The only problem is my atheist friends are contradicting their faith, their belief that there is no God. Because if there is no God, there's nothing absolutely wrong with the abuse of an innocent child. It's all relativism. Fourthly, because Jesus Christ rose from the dead, there is eternal life. And that is what Christ offers every single one of us. When we put our faith in him, he affirms life more than anybody. And I loved it yesterday. A guy out of the crowd said, "Cliff, that is naive optimism." And then I asked him, "Really? And you tell me what your hope is." And you told me what your hope is, and you put my naive optimism to shame with the degree of your naive optimism. That, oh baby, tomorrow's going to be a better day. Oh really? Tonight you get hit with a car. It's possible.
Yes.
Tonight you might burn up in a fire, the way obviously 4 students did here. All right? This fall. Come on, guys. Let's talk about reality. Do you have hope? If so, why? Why do you have an optimistic view of the future? If there is no God, when you die, you rot. When I die, I rot. But if there is a God, then it's possible that there is life after death. That's exciting. I'm insisting that if he thinks that child abuse is evil, and I say you're wrong, child abuse is good. I'm insisting this dude's wrong, that dude's right. Why? I'm insisting that there's a value of justice that exists separate from him, separate from me, separate from his culture, separate from my culture. And according to that value of justice, child abuse is absolutely, objectively wrong. Now, the only way there can be a real value, separate from him, separate from his culture, separate from me, separate from my culture, is if there is some type of mind, some type of creator, some type of God who defines that value of justice and who creates children with innate value to the point where my child abuse is really, absolutely, objectively evil. I don't care if you're Christian, Jew, Muslim, agnostic, atheist, Hindu, or Buddhist. It really doesn't matter what your culture is, doesn't matter what your belief system is. If you abuse an innocent child, that is absolutely wrong. The only way that can be true is if there is some type of mind, prior to the human mind, who creates that value.
But Aristotle would disagree with you there, John Stuart Mill, Immanuel Kant, because you can use rationalism to realize that even without a God, we can still come to an objective morality.
No, sir. No, sir. If you think that Adolf Hitler wasn't a smart man, you're blowing smoke. Hitler was very smart, and I can promise you Adolf Hitler had a rationale for the Holocaust. And if you think them dumb white South Africans put apartheid in place because they were stupid, you couldn't be more out of touch with reality. Those white South Africans were very, very smart, the way they put that horrible system of apartheid together.
You're talking about
so the question is, whose reason are you going to trust? And I can promise you, most thinking people are very good when it comes to rationalizing whatever ethical system they embrace.
You're talking about cultural relativism again?
No, I'm talking about reason.
Let's talk about what
No,
Aristotle...
I'm not talking about cultural relativism, so please hear me right. You said reason is the basis of morality. Fine. It's still relative, depending upon whose reason you're buying into. I don't care if it's Hitler's reason, white South Africans' reason, or the U.S. Supreme Court's reason at the time of the Dred Scott decision. Reason is relative. And to try and act like, oh no, my reason is better than your reason, my reason is true and your reason is false. What an arrogant twit.
So, your reason's coming from a God then, right?
Correct. I am convinced that God gave us rational minds, but we can twist rational thinking and embrace the irrational.
So you came up with a reason based on something, right?
What?
Your reasoning based on scripture, whatever.
No, my reason is based on a gift that I've been given, the same gift you've been given, of a rational mind. But to try and act like the rational mind is the basis of justice and injustice, you got to be kidding me. There are so many disagreements about what is just by equally intelligent people. Just think about Einstein. Do you know what Einstein did to his wife? Einstein wrote up 4 things that his wife had to do. She had to prepare 3 meals a day and bring them to his room. She had to keep his desk immaculately clean and could never use it. She had to do the laundry and fold it. And she had to get out of the room when he wanted her out of the room. They divorced. Surprise, surprise. Einstein was absolutely brilliant, obviously. The question is, how do you use reason? What is the ethical compass that you use to determine how to use your reason? To act like reason gives us this moral absolute. Come on, guys, think.
So you're saying then, even without human minds, we would still have these morals?
If God creates them, yes.
So no humans exist, but morals still exist that apply to humans that don't exist?
No. God's character is just. God's character has existed throughout eternity. Goodness is good because God's character defines goodness. Powerful God can choose to partially limit his power by giving you and me a free will. And if he chooses to give us a free will, he is limiting his power, and he's saying, you go out and be creative. You go out and be creative. You don't have to create good, you can create evil. You go out and be creative. I've given you this gift. Use it wisely, use it carefully.
But that contradicts him being supremely good because he's
No, it does
permitting
not.
evil. If he can see it occurring and he has the power to eliminate it, but he allows it to, then that's permitting evil. That's
Because he chose to give us a gift of free will. And because he chose to give us the gift of free will, he is not going to interfere with you exercising your free will. He will judge you, though, one day, as he's going to judge me. He's going to judge all of us.
You know that?
And yep, that's what Jesus promised. And I think Jesus is highly reliable. You die and rise from the dead, I'll listen very carefully to everything you have to say.
Okay.
Jesus died and rose from the dead. That's why you can trust him.
All your factually based arguments are based on the fact that the Bible is true.
I don't believe the Gospels because of faith. The evidence is that the Gospels are historically reliable. The evidence is we have a very reliable Quran. And if you're going to tell me that the Quran is historically unreliable, I'm going to tell you haven't done your homework. The same way if you tell me the Gospels are unreliable, I'm going to tell you haven't done your homework. The evidence is the Quran and the Gospels are very accurate representations of what Muhammad taught and how he treated people, and what Jesus taught and how he treated people.
Are they entirely accurate on what actually occurred? Based on scientific law and what we understand how the universe operates? I'm saying okay, you say that God created the heavens and the earth on the first day, right? And he separated light from dark. But then on the fourth day, he decided to create the sun and the stars, which is the source of light. And on the third day, he created plants. But plants require photosynthesis and light to live.
Very good.
Okay,
So all you got to do, think, stay calm, think. You got to think, guys.
I am thinking.
Good. When did Augustine live?
I don't know.
Back in the 300s, right? Or was it 400s? 300s?
330.
Pardon?
330.
Very good. 330 Augustine lived. Augustine, in his writings, points out, in light of the fact that Genesis chapter 1 talks about the sun being created on the fourth day, it's obvious, if you study Genesis 1, that it's Hebrew poetry, which means Genesis 1 is not giving us a precise chronological account of how God created. Augustine said that long before Charles Darwin was ever born, long before anybody started talking about evolution. Augustine points out, guys, read Genesis 1 more carefully. This is back in the 300s, okay? Genesis 1 is not giving you a stopwatch account of the order and timing in which God created. So it's that simple. There's no contradiction between the Big Bang and Genesis 1. There's no contradiction between evolution as a process and Genesis 1. Big contradiction between evolution as an origin and Genesis 1. Humongous contradiction. Genesis 1 obviously says, in the beginning, God, not in the beginning, hydrogen. Big difference between the two. Contradiction. But how did God create? The Bible does not answer.
Well, evolution makes no claims on the origin of life. It makes claims on the continual change of life.
Good.
The claim of abiogenesis is an entirely different school of thought than evolution.
Good. Thank you. I just wish more professors on university campuses agreed with what you just said. I agree with you 100%. Evolution has nothing to say about how life originated. Nothing. That's a philosophical question, which is it more reasonable to believe life comes from life, that life comes from a living being, God, or is it more reasonable to believe that life comes from non-life by accident? That's not science, that's philosophy. Because guess what? Nobody was around to observe when life began. So there's no eyewitness account, is there? So it's a philosophical question, not a scientific question.
If there is no God, there is no objective morality.
Correct.
All right. What's the problem with there being no objective reality?
You bet.
Or morality?
Problem's real simple.
Sure.
Every one of my moral relativist friends cannot live it out. Why? My moral relativist friends who are married inevitably at some point look into the spouse's face and say, you should not have said that to me. You should not have treated me that way. When they use that language, they're showing they're not relativists. They're showing they understand, when you said that to me, that was mean. That was really wrong. And when you did that to me, when you cut me off at the knees, that was really wrong. You see, you can't live out moral relativism. Why? Because people hurt you. They hurt you so badly, you know it's wrong, and you don't say, well, from my perspective, that was naughty, but I understand from your perspective that was cool. I'm not right, you're not right, I'm not wrong, you're not wrong. It's all relative. You can't live that way.
What if they're just lying? Well, not lying consciously, but subconsciously lying. What if they're, you're assuming basically that what they're saying is the truth, that when they say should, that means they're telling the truth, or they're referring to something which is true. They could not be.
Okay. So what's your point?
Well, that even if you, even if you make it so that you're to the point where you say should, or some other indicator that there is something beyond moral relativism and objective morality.
Right.
Even if you say that, that doesn't mean it's the case.
Right. Morals are not objective and absolute because I stand here and say they're absolute. What am I doing? I'm appealing to your experience. I'm appealing to my gay friends who tell me that morality is relative. And I say, okay, if what you say is correct, that morality is relative, then why is the murder of Matthew Shepard wrong? If morality is relative, friends, it doesn't matter ultimately what you do. I think we all know, at least I hope we all know, that the murder of Matthew Shepard was absolutely wrong. Why? Because we have a conscience, and that conscience informs us human beings have innate value, there's a value of justice, and when you do something like bash gay people or murder Matthew Shepard, that is absolutely, objectively evil and wrong.
Okay. If that's true, though.
Good, if that's true.
But
it might not be true, right?
I don't think you need to
Maybe
use,
the murder of Matthew Shepard was okay. You're right. Maybe it was.
I don't think you need to use moral relativism to excuse immoral action.
No, sir. My point is, if morality is relative, there's no such thing as moral and immoral in any objective sense. Now, sure, I'll create my own morality. He'll create his own morality. He'll create his own morality. But you guys better not be arrogant enough to say that your morality is correct and mine is wrong, and I better not be arrogant enough to say that my morality is right and yours is wrong. Because if we understand that morality is relative, whatever floats your boat, whatever floats your boat, whatever floats my boat, it's all relative. It's all a personal taste.
Maybe.
No, not maybe.
Well, hold on.
In reality.
Well, I mean, I don't really think you can really define reality as anything beyond, I mean, how do you say something is real if you can't see it, or?
Very simple. You experience evil. And you know when you experience evil that that's not just relative.
Well, no, that's still subjective, though.
Okay, I would argue it's not.
I would argue explain your argument.
The abuse of an innocent child, every one of us here knows is absolutely evil. I would argue that every one of us here knows that the murder of Matthew Shepard is absolutely evil. I don't think you have to have a PhD in ethics to figure that one out. So obviously I'm appealing to your experience. Now, if your experience is different, then I've lost my argument, right? I've lost my evidence. But if your experience validates what I claim, then it points you right to God, to some type of moral lawgiver. It's that simple.